ora, welcome to Outside the Lines Talanoa panel today, where we will be discussing business of sport, where we have athletes, content creators, AI, commercial partnerships, and the contribution Pacifica people have to these areas. We have Jerome, Simi, and Eddy. Simi, we're going to start with you. As a current athlete still in athletics, can you tell us a little bit of why you got into branding and using your image for social media?
Well, first of all, I got into branding or marketing because I got picked up by this agency called People of Influence. So they emailed me because I think it was just one of the mental health videos I did for a brand that I'm currently with. And they reached out to me and they were like, we would like to have you on so that we can help elevate your platforms.
What does that entail when you actually have to do that day by day? Do they sit down with you? Do you work out what you're going to post?
I think the majority of it is quite self-driven. So it's like your job to find your identity and who you are as a person, because at the end of the day, that becomes your brand and that becomes how your agent or yourself would be branded out to like different companies. So I think for me, it was definitely trying to figure out who I was as a person, like Simi as a person. Like I'm Simi, like the track athlete, the sports reporter, but it's the Simi, when you take away those, like take off those hats, who am I?
Eddy, you obviously have a rugby background.
Yes.
Now are working in rugby league though. Did you have similar kind of ideas around what Simi's talking about with your identity in sport when you were younger with being a rugby player?
Growing up, I always knew that rugby was just the vehicle to what I wanted to achieve. And so I'd use rugby to go wherever I wanted. Once I kind of stopped playing rugby, I had to think about what I wanted to do next. But I knew that rugby wasn't going to be the be-all and end-all.
How do you go from your uni then, and you know that you want to go and study, in your current role that you're doing where you're doing content creation for NZRL, can you speak to us a little bit of how you got into that role?
Initially, when I got into marketing, I wanted to work in advertising. But once I finished playing rugby, I still wanted to be around the sport and everything. And so I kind of tried to find some other options in how to be around the sport once I finished becoming an athlete. So I reached out to New Zealand Rugby League where I'm at now and just kind of asked for an opportunity, if there are any opportunities available. And they offered me an internship, and from there I'm where I'm at now, so yeah.
Jerome, for like we're talking sport as a business,
Yeah.
You're talking commercial parts of it. How do you make sure and maintain your authenticity for our Pacifica values in those areas?
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying that I've always held was e tō mau whawai e sui whainga, which is a Samoan proverb around your fundamentals, principles and values remain, but it's the application that will vary. I think some people, the higher they get, they start to vary their principles and values. But what I see with Eddy and Simi is they both know who they are, and I think for us, we just can't compromise that. So even in the commercial world, yeah, it gets pretty intense, but don't kind of lose yourself and don't get seduced by the power, the attention, because it's a bit like anything, people are going to tell you, you're good at this, you're good at that, but sort of my opinion or my sort of poll is my parents and my wife, and they'll tell me if I'm okay and not so okay.
When it comes down to people want to talk about dollars in the business side of sport, they want to make sure that if you're not making a buck, then it starts to get a bit pressured on. Do you say you just like very much, I know who I am and I'll stick to my values?
Yeah, I think the trade union movement in 15 years in it with my advocacy has really given me clarity on how to articulate and advocate the worth, but even for a collective like our Pacific community, I think I'm pretty clear that there are bottom lines, and the bottom line is never to kind of compromise the cultural integrity. And people like, Savio, Sir Michael, and our sort of giants like Tuafasina, Sir Brian, they have shown that, even building Moana Pacifica, they have shown their sort of just integrity and honesty. And I think for us, we just have to keep following that journey like our parents. Yeah.
Simi, did you, like when you hear Jerome talking about that part of you where you was like, I need to learn Simi without all of the labels.
Yeah.
How did you actually come about knowing that? Because that's actually a really big piece for people to acknowledge almost being self-aware of where they sit and what are the kind of values that they sit on?
It's still a work in progress. I feel like as I get older, I realize a lot of things about myself. I pick up a lot of traits, or I realize like, you know, what my mom and my dad had, you know, kind of taught me growing up, you know, like the ethics of like working hard, you know, money is scarce, so like time management. That is the kind of things that I've kind of embedded into who I am as a person. And I think those kind of skill sets are very undervalued. So like, I feel like if you are able to ground yourself with the values and morals that your parents have kind of taught you within your life, then I feel like that is a good foundation to start off with. And that's how I have rediscovered my identity, because just growing up, like I used to reject being a Pacific Islander heavily. That's only because just the people that I was around, I went to a severely like significant Balangi like primary school and like intermediate, and because of that, that is another journey that I'm trying to like, you know, take back and reclaim to myself, because being brown is so cool. Being brown, especially being a brown female woman in the spaces that I am, is bloody awesome. And I feel like there's a lot of kids who's still trying to find their discovery with their culture and their roots, and that's such a, yeah, just an important experience which I'm still going through and still learning to this day.
How are your people to help you with that? Because you're saying it's individual work, but you also definitely have to have a community around to support that. So who is it for you?
I think it's the people I surround myself in general. I know, like just home, like mom, dad, my sister. So both my mom and dad are full Samoan. My dad, he migrated. So I'm like, what, third generation, second generation of migration, you know, family being migrated here from Sa. So I think constantly it's like learning. Google's for free. I research. Well, it is true, right? You can be very lazy with, you can be lazy with, you know, researching, doing your own, you know, finding information about your own culture. But I think it's also just, I feel like for me, I couldn't accept my culture unless I accepted myself. So that is something that I had to really dive into, and feeling more secure with who I am as a person, to start feeling secure about who I am for my identity.
Google is for free. Eddy, your marketing background for your at uni, it probably dabbled in content creation, but maybe not. So how did you actually go from marketing into content creation, specifically sport? Yeah.
So when I went into marketing at New Zealand Rugby League, I was just behind the strategy, hadn't picked up a camera really, did a bit of stuff at uni, but not too much to what I'm doing now. But it was pretty much, I picked up the camera, fell in love with the process of making videos, photography, stuff like that. And as Simi said, Google's free. You have so much information out there that's accessible to you. And so I just jumped on YouTube. At work, we call it YouTube University, where you got so many free videos to teach you how to do different effects, different things on the camera, and so yeah, that's how I got into content creation.
Do you think that was something that you thought you'd be doing when you were playing rugby earlier? Like, as a, you know, how has social media kind of changed sport, but also your career?
Well, coming up as an athlete, I always kind of wished that there was a camera there, and like I was shooting when I'm training, you know. But obviously I didn't have that, so but never would I have thought that I'd land into the content creation space whilst I was being an athlete. It was kind of something that I got into afterwards, and I fell in love with it, and now I kind of enjoy it more than being an athlete, really. So.
Wanting to have the cameras on you when you're during an athlete kind of talks to this idea of, Simi, why did you want to get into this space while you're still an athlete? It's basically a business on the side, hustle.
I think it's because like we discussed before, the brown space of brown people, let alone athletes, is like there's like hardly any in the market space. I think it's because this thing of tall poppy syndrome within not only the Kiwi community, but also in the Pacifica and Māori community. We're taught to be humble, right? But you can still be humble and still, you know, elevate your platforms. Because that's exactly what I do. And I do it because I got bills to pay, I got a student loan, And my 9-to-5 job obviously doesn't cover as much as I'd like to. I like to live lavishly, and I can't do that with my 9-to-5 job. Okay, so I'm just being honest.
Need some bank.
Yeah, and if I need to live this lavish lifestyle, I need to make bank on the side, and that's my side hustle, which is social media. Being in the space is super undermined for brown people because we're so creative, right? We're so good at storytelling. We're so good at behind the camera, like Eddy, and just like the people behind the camera right now. And I feel like if we are given the opportunity and the resources, we thrive so well, especially under pressure. But I just feel like we just don't get those kind of opportunities because we don't see those people like us within like the social media spaces, the influential spaces. And so that's something that I'm still trying to push in terms of like the glass ceiling within social media. Because to be fully honest, when you see like people on TikTok and you see people on Instagram who are getting these massive brand deals, you don't think brown people.
At a board level, Jerome, is that something that you're trying to push as well? We're talking about branding and content online, but if you're talking about business and sport and you're going to the boardroom level, are there many people that look like you and us at that space?
There isn't at this stage, but I think it's our task to get more of us there. And there's a couple of boards that I've had the privilege to be on, and some are mainstream boards, and it's about how do we get more people on there. We can't be gatekeepy. We have to bring more people through because, as we've sort of seen, is once we're in those sort of, whether it be sports, academic, creative, whatever it is, we thrive because I think it's not only about our IQ, but it's our EQ, our street smarts. What we do is sort of people in our family, in our sort of community, in our village. It's that family time that you can't manufacture. You can't sort of change the pure sort of cultural experience. And when people sit in those boards, they read the theory, but they don't know the community context. Yeah. And I think even with the demographic shift of more brown people, more of our multicultural Asian, we are the future of Aotearoa. We are the future of the global diaspora as well. You see right throughout the World Cup, even in our women's game, it's strong Pacific Māori, NRL, it's all Pacific Māori. And I think for us, we just have to know our value. And as a board member, it's about leveraging that worth and saying, where's the reciprocity in this transaction? We just can't be the content or the players.
So the next question was like, what are some of the challenges that you see in your areas, but also for both of you guys as well?
Like I just finished my second year of reporting, sports reporting. I think one of the challenges I faced twice, my mentor, Melody Robertson, she told me that you're going to come across people who are going to undermine who you are only because you're a female, but also you're a brown female within that sports space. So I had 2 occasions where I was sitting in the media box for one of the big games that I was covering. And one guy like turned to me and he was like, "What are you doing here?" Like questioning why I was sitting in the media box with him. First of all, I was kind of like stunned. And I looked at him and I was like, "I'm doing exactly what you're doing." Like
My job.
Yeah, bro, like you got the accreditation, I got the accreditation.
See this?
And then he like asked for proof of my work.
No way.
Yeah. No, he did. So I was just like, I just gave him the company I'm working for and I was like, search it up. Like I don't have to prove.
Yeah.
I don't have to give you evidence, I don't have to give you receipts. And then I was like, shouldn't you be focusing on your own work anyway? So it's giving projection, it's giving insecure, bro. So yeah, it's only like 2 years into my work, and just to see that is something that I will be facing probably for the rest of my life. I'm just like, whatever, bro, just bring it on.
What about you, Jerome? Did you?
It can get lonely, but you've got to be really determined. And like I kind of think about my parents and the way that they worked in the factories. They sort of built us to do this. We're built different, and we just have to be really resilient. You're gonna get the haters, but it's just remembering who you're doing it for. I'm a little bit more mature and ripe, but I've had my fair share of kind of what I'd call, am I allowed to say it?
Yeah.
Sort of just the redneckism. They just think that mainstream is the only homogenous, and you have to assimilate. I mean, I want to go back to that whole thing about just be assertive and be really confident, and also just that whole thing about don't confuse your entrepreneurial spirit with that whole sort of what mainstream does around cutthroat. Like be assertive, don't be arrogant, be confident, but don't be sort of aggressive. It's all that sort of, there's a fine line, and I'm sure our people and our people that sort of tell us what to do, they remind you every day.
just to go on Jerome's point of being confident and assertiveness, that was a big challenge for myself. At times this year I felt like I didn't belong kind of in the space with so many experienced content creators and stuff like that. So I quickly had to try and overcome that and think to myself, no, I do belong. I'm gonna give this a good crack and put myself forward, because we are the OG storytellers, I guess, and
That's right.
and there's no one better than Pacific people that can tell our stories and stuff like that. So,
especially when you look at the league, they're probably playing wise. There's more people, obviously, that look like us.
Yeah.
So how do you actually, does that help in your favor when you're asking them to do like content? Because, you know, like if you're also telling them to bare their soul sometimes in the content, like, you know, tell me your deep and darkest feelings, do you feel that there's more of a connection and that you're able to get more out of them because of that?
most definitely. I see being brown as more of a superpower in that sort of space. So it's because I can relate, and so many of our own people can relate to each other because we have so many shared experiences. And so when it comes to content, because we're brown, I can just go up to, say, the likes of James Fisher Harris or Jermaine Isako and be like, hey bro, can you just say this on camera for me? And it's all good because, you know, we've got that lived and shared experience together. So yeah.
You mentioned earlier around like you used to do work just on the strategy side of things. Can you talk about what you actually mean when you were doing more of the strategy work as opposed to the content creation? Like what did that look like?
Working in the strategy, we would kind of develop marketing plans for certain campaigns, do certain market research. So for the international season that just went by, we found a stat that 50% of Gen Zers haven't sat through a full broadcast of sport. So the way that they consume sport is through social media. So their relationship with sport is through social media. So we kind of planned, okay, how can we make the Kiwis brand and rugby league synonymous to them, and so that they feel connected to rugby league and the Kiwis. So we developed plans about showing more of the personality of the Kiwi players. Off-field content was the biggest thing, so not what everyone sees, like highlights, stuff like that, but behind the scenes content was the biggest sort of content that we planned.
Eddy's talking about like actually strategically having market research behind what they put out and how they planned their strategy for NZRL. You also do that for the same in terms of looking at your data around the things that you post?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I realized like being an athlete is cool and all, but like there's no relatability when it comes to just the general public. Like they'd be like, yeah, cool, she's an athlete, but like they can't relate to any of that. So that's where I did, just like Eddy said, BTS is super huge within the social media platforms, because at least doing behind the scenes as an athlete, that humanizes you. So that takes you off the pedestal of being an athlete. So when I'm doing like showcasing my training and all, and I'm showing like I'm dying on the track or whatever, I'm crying, whatever, they'll be like, oh, I cry too. But like not on the track, but I do cry. So like there's there's bits and pieces within my content, which is behind the scenes of the track where people can relate to. I think it's more interesting as well, because as an athlete myself, I like to see what happens behind the scenes of particular athletes as well, to showcase why they've become such an awesome athlete and how they got to that level of excellence, you know. Brown excellence is across the board, right? So like, I mean, I train with Zoe Hobbs, Brown Queen. She's currently going to the Olympics, right? How cool would it be to see her behind the scenes leading up to her Olympic campaign? Because that's where you will find the relatability, or you'll find that engagement, because we get to know her not as Zoe Hobbs as an athlete, but just Zoe Hobbs as a person. So I think behind the scenes is becoming a thing for social media, because like I said, not only does it humanizes you, but there's a lot of relatability which people can engage with as well.
You are talking about like elevating almost, because people at the moment, sports series is a huge thing, right? And like behind the scenes, what does Zoe Hobbs, what does Simi do on her road to somewhere is quite a big aspect, and you can monetize it and commercialize it. So Jerome, in your kind of area of expertise, how do you package up something that is so unique and then sell it to a commercial partner?
So it is about monetizing, but keeping the integrity of the offering and the authenticity. When I think about even elevating it, like one of the things that we're doing at the moment is we've launched the Pasifika Rugby Hall of Fame, and it's with giants like Sir Michael Jones, like Fee, you know, and even working with Manusina captain Cynthia Tala. It's about us taking our own and pushing it through. So we also had Seoli Jesse Sapolu here, who, you know, they've run the Polynesian Hall of Fame. And when they started, they had to, you know, it was a big marathon, but once they got the corporate sponsors like Microsoft, Hawaiian, Adidas and that, but it was a long game for them. But they understood to keep the integrity and the authenticity of the offering. But that organic bit is really important as well. It can't look manufactured. You know, some kids will just click off if it looks manufactured. And so even some of the work that we just sort of did a few months ago was we had Bundy and Tuatanga Vailoa meet up in Germany. So we hosted some of the Polynesian Hall of Fame team at the World Cup final. And then from France, we went to Germany and they hosted us at the Chiefs Dolphins game. And so, you know, Bundy, you know, being a South Auckland boy, is very strong Irish giant now. But, you know, it's bringing a Pacific diaspora together, but it's us that's doing it. We're wanting to do more of that, but us to also hold the budget strings, not just be the people in the front. We also have to have the people at the back that are able to leverage commercially for us, but ensuring also that the people that are in front are getting the benefits as well.
What is it then in your mind is needed for, at an international level, the kind of Pacifica diaspora coming together as almost like a brand and putting it forward collectively? Do you see value or importance of that?
I think that there is, but there also isn't in terms of we're not homogenous. We're all very different. Our genes are very, you know, we're all very different in terms of sort of age as well. But I think also technology has kind of even the platform for all of us. And, you know, it could be tomorrow that we go viral and we become a global star. You know, it's all that sort of stuff. You look at people like Paris Goebel, you know, you look at some that have just started here, even the 685 song, you know, you just keep going, running hard in your lane and you can get there sort of organically. But then also intentionally, I think there is sort of that understanding, who do we need to be in front of? You know, what does that look like? And then being able to filter and get in front of people. But some of our giants are also quite accessible, but we also then have to say we can be what we can see. So even some of our people, like the creatives, like our sports stars, you know, people like The Rock, you know, we can see who he is and we can be that as well. And I think everyone can reach it, and sort of technology has given us that opportunity.
If people are watching this and they want to get into whatever areas of sport you guys are in, what is it that you think are the skills that they need to focus on and look to, that they can try and hone their skill in that?
I love everything's all transferable. Like, don't feel that you're in this lane. You might evolve into something else. Like, you might become a producer, or, you know, but I've had these sort of 4 attributes that I keep really strongly, and they're quite generic, but they're really important for me. So one is a sound belief system. The other one is be decisive, because being indecisive, you're never going to get anywhere. I think it's just make a decision. If you fail hard, and you go get back up, you know, but just go hard. Be decisive on your hustle, just, you know, because you might see someone else and get distracted. Dealing with complexity, like, there's nothing wrong being an athlete and being a social media person plus your day job, you know, like, deal with all the different lanes you have and don't feel that you're kind of categorized to one. And the 4th one, which is probably one that we're all going to face, is conflict resolution. It's not going to be all rosy. We're going to have those, who are you in the media box, or do I feel like a imposter syndrome? Because like mainstream, they're good at faking till they make it. And we feel that we're imposters when we get into forums. It's like, nah, man, I'm a gangster. My parents, you know, they're giants. They came here. Don't fall back. So just be really strong, and just, you know, just conflict resolution is just part of us. And I'm talking about metaphorically. Don't kind of get into the literal, physical, UFC, with the jabs and that. But, just stand strong, man.
I think I only got 3. I literally just made it up. Adapt, accelerate, and conquer. So like...
Eddy, you finishing.
So you got 2 on.
Same. Whatever situation you're in, you're always going to come with conflict, backlash. So just, adapt with your environment, be confident with you as a person, accelerate, just keep going. Just keep going no matter what obstacle, who's in your way. If you believe in yourself, which comes back to confidence, then you will strongly believe to keep accelerating with whatever goals that you set up for yourself. And conquering is once you reach the mountain, get up top of the mountain, there's other mountains that you can conquer too. Like, why stop there? Just keep going.
That's gonna be awesome. That's so good.
Hold up my 3.
That's so good.
That's why I'm a sports reporter.
Thinking on the spot.
Witty, very witty.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was so
So now I feel bad, like Eddy,
Sorry, Eddy.
strong, buddy. What are your gold nuggets you're imparting on everybody?
I think the advice that I'd give to, especially athletes wanting to sort of front face the camera is to be authentic in your true self. So don't be afraid to tell your narrative. Like, everyone's not fortunate enough or blessed enough to be like a Shawn Johnson or these famous athletes that we all idolize and everything. But everyone has a story, and don't feel too forced to conform into the sort of Instagram norm. I need to look like this because be your authentic self, because that's the stuff that is engaged the most and what resonates with people and what is relatable to people the most. So that's my golden nugget.
With that, that's basically our Talent panel for today. Thank you so much for actually taking time to come and share your experiences and insights. I know that it's going to be really valuable for people who get to experience and watch it, so appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.